I have some other questions for Mika. In the Farm Bill that we passed yesterday, there is a program called the Conservation Reserve Program, which is a land retirement program. Farmers agreed to not produce crops on this land for a duration of time because that land previously had been overused. There has been a lot of talk lately about opening acres of that land to plant crops. Would you favor that?
Absolutely.
And do you believe that that will help alleviate some of the pressure in the market by planting crops?
Just by the mere fact that we are only at 24 days of wheat supply when we traditionally depend on 3 months, that would have to add to our cushion in the case of another perfect storm down the line that we could depend on.
Does any person on the panel have a different perspective?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. The Conservation Reserve Program was created in the mid-'80s to stop soil, wind, and water erosion on farms. Much of the land that's been removed from production was done so because it wasn't suitable for farming. And now we've had some land come out of production. It's not at its all-time high. We're probably at the limit of what could come out and be reasonably farmed. That's not the cause of today's crisis. If you really want to look at wheat production, and despite what these gentlemen have been told that corn is displacing wheat acres, that's occurred since the 1980s, where a farmer can plant a higher value commodity like corn or soybeans or rice or cotton. They'll do so because of the economics of it. And I don't know how you force people to plant a crop that they're not going to make a decent return on the investment. The wheat acreage that is displaced by corn is very minimal. And to open up the Conservation Reserve Program would open our country up to a lot more environmental challenges, whether it's silt running into the rivers, the tremendous erosion that occurs. It was done for a purpose, and just opening up without looking at it, I think, is a big mistake. If the market says to that producer, I can make more money growing wheat than I can make growing corn, the farmers will grow wheat. We've just subsidized the end user of wheat for so many years, and you can see by that chart on the bagel, even at today's record high prices on wheat, we're 7 cents out of that 95 cents. And the reason I used the bagel was the Washington Post had a headline story complaining that a bagel shop in Bethesda was going to have to raise their bagels from 95 cents to $1.15 because of corn ethanol. Okay. No connection whatsoever. We could give them the wheat. They were raising it by more than that.
Mr. Formica.
I just wanted to ask, we're talking about two things. The Conservation Reserve Program is an environmentally sensitive program. Is that not correct? So I'm not talking about replacing wheat for corn. We're talking about farmers getting subsidized not to plant on their land at all. And studies have shown by smarter gentlemen than me, or ladies than me, that some of this land can be, released out of the program for wheat production. I don't see how that impacts, the Corn for Fuel program. And my question is, and I'll defer to Mr. Bias, are there not farmers right now contracted in the reserve program that now at the price of wheat per bushel could make money by farming that for wheat?
If you guaranteed them that speculative price we had in February and March, you might have. But right now, wheat prices are barely above the cost of production.
Okay. There was some interest in that, though. Not even 6 weeks ago.
This has to be factual based, and anyone who thinks that every farmer is getting $20 a bushel for their wheat is mistaken. The price in Central Oklahoma today is $7.80. Okay.
I'll be the one asking questions. Mr. Formica, let's go back to corn and ethanol. Yesterday, in the Farm Bill that we passed, there is a provision contained in the Farm Bill that reduces the ethanol tax incentive by 6 cents and creates a program for cellulosic ethanol made from grasses and biomass. Wouldn't this approach encourage alternative inputs by taking pressures off corn markets?
Well, I don't pretend to understand the mechanics of that, but if anything, I don't know. It would seem that it would when I read this report, and I just was curious as to if we relieved the tariff import on ethanol, and we really wanted to relieve the stress of this country, dependent by taking the 7% and maybe getting up to 9%, could that not be done through importing ethanol?
Okay, Mr. Deneen, do you believe this will solve part of the problem by shifting from corn to alternative inputs?
There's no question that the industry is continuing to evolve. The foundation of the industry today is providing the base upon which a cellulosic second-generation ethanol industry will indeed develop. The legislation that you have introduced that will encourage research into cellulosic ethanol will certainly help. I would point out, however, that you're not going to have a second-generation ethanol industry if you don't have a first-generation ethanol industry providing the markets, providing the infrastructure upon which that next generation industry can grow. And just really quickly, because Mr. Formica has mentioned the secondary tariff on ethanol a couple of times. You should know that we actually do import a fair amount of Brazilian ethanol today. We imported about 450 million gallons last year. We are likely to import significantly more this year. The secondary tariff is not there as any barrier to entry. It's only there to offset the tax incentive that they then get. And if you were to eliminate the secondary tariff, as he's suggesting, it just means that the U.S. taxpayer is now subsidizing already highly subsidized Brazilian ethanol, and I'm not sure that makes a great deal of sense.
Okay. Mr. Gomez, do you have any other questions?